VC is very biased. It's usually a lot of men investing in men, and kind of in the same types of products and startups. And so and founders, exactly. And they said, okay, and usually Atomico themselves, they only invest at Series A. And they said, okay, how do we get into startups earlier? How do we find the right talent earlier? And also in something different.
This is Female Business Angel Podcast.
Your go-to destination if you're a business angel or would like to get into angel investing and don't know where to start.
Or if you just want to find out how we tick. We're Tina and Katja, both business angels from Berlin. Well, I'm a VC now. We will interview established female business angels about how they got started and how it is going, including all the best tips and tricks.
So get ready for some insider stories and personal empowering moments and revelations with these incredible women.
Welcome to this journey with us.
Hi, Jenny. Super good to have you here at this beautiful scene studio in our rooftop podcast place.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katja. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, finally. So I think you're one of the last female business angels that has to come to our podcast. So finally it happened. And super happy it worked out that spontaneously. So please introduce yourself. I think it's very exciting how you juggle being an entrepreneur, running your own successful startup, and being an angel investor. And also we bump into each other at all these events. So how do you do all these things, and how do you stay sane and focused?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm Jenny. I'm the co-founder of Apryl. Apryl is a startup that pretty much delivers fertility and family forming benefits. So that's when your employer is paying for things like egg freezing, IVF, but also adoption, surrogacy, not only for women, but also for men, to make it as inclusive as possible. And next to this, I'm also angel investing, mostly through the Atomico angel program. I joined that program 1.5 years ago, and it's super nice because it gives me pretty much a little bit of money that I can invest in the startups that I think, will be the most successful, create value, and also support the things that I believe in.
Yes, tell us more. How did you get into the angel program? How did you start? How did it? Was it like they chose you, you chose them?
Yeah,
it's a match.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get this question a lot, and I think for me, when I started my own company at the end of 2019, I also realized that kind of a lot of angel investors invested in my company, and I was like really surprised, or kind of like realized that's kind of how it works. You don't have to invest crazy amounts, and I realized I also wanted to give something back, and I still had a little bit of money that I made from my previous company that then IPO'd. And so like I started initially investing with my private money, like really small amounts through a syndicate here in Berlin. And after 2 investments, for some reason, I still remember I was in Portugal for New Year's Eve pretty much. And I think on the 5th or 6th of January, I suddenly received an email from Atomico saying like, hey, have you heard of this program that we're doing? And would you like to join? And I was like, I don't know what my heart did, but it's like my face, I was just like crazy. It's like they asked me and I had no idea why. And I think that's a little bit the funny thing, because a lot of people ask me like, how do you get, or did you get into this program? Like, is there like an application process or anything? And there's not. It's a little bit, I guess, random. And I think the way the Atomico program was designed is that it's supposed to, that they saw back in the days, like, okay, VC is very biased. It's usually a lot of men investing in men, and kind of in the same types of products and startups. And so
and founders.
Yeah. Exactly. And they said, okay, and usually Atomico themselves, they only invest at Series A. And they said, okay, how do we get into startups earlier? How do we find the right talent earlier? and also in something different. And we probably need people that come from a different background and that have different views. And so they usually, when you look at the people that are in that program, it's like super broad and it's a variety of people, from like really people that work in NGOs, soccer players, and like really, really broad. Of course, also people from the startup scene. And I think for me, it's because, I mean, I started Apryl back then and it was all about diversity and inclusion. I think, for them, it kind of was a good match. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got in. And usually the program is only 1 year and you get like $100,000 to invest. And for me, that program was just extended with a bunch of other people that also extended the program. And yeah, so right now I'm
Second year in.
And I really enjoy it.
That's fine. I had no idea there are also NGO and NGO people and soccer players. So talking about bias, I mostly know women like yourself running a startup or working for startup, for an early stage startup as an operator of a unicorn, who are members of Atomico program, like, some ladies from the UK and from Holland as well. So
no, it is. I mean, of course, there are people that are from the ecosystem, but then there are, again, also people that have a completely different background. And I think that's what makes the whole program so exciting. And they're still experimenting with this as well, right? Like in the first years, it was more like almost like a class, like a batch, and we all started at the same time. And now they're experimenting and saying like, okay, we leave it open because like over the course of the year, we just meet people and we just bring them in as we meet them. So that's also the new.
Yeah. So it's not like the 1 year. Yeah, that's Sophia Benz set it up, right? Back in the days, and now it's being iterated.
Yeah, exactly. She used to work at Atomico, and now she's at Cherry Ventures, and but still, I think it's her heritage.
Your baby. Yeah. And do you meet other angels? Do you have like a virtual huddle or like get-togethers or something, or is it more for like Slack channel
And so I think, I mean, Atomico, they are based in the UK, so a lot of the activities are in the UK and they're in their office in London. And so, but we have a lot of like, I mean, the program started when there was still a pandemic, so we have a lot of video conferences together. I mean, that's what I mean with like, for me, it was more like I started with a class. So of course, I met a lot of the people like virtually in the beginning. We have a Slack channel where we share deal flow, where people share like their investments and in general, just like questions, right? It's also a learning opportunity for everyone who's joining the program. Of course, I was not an expert. I'm still not. But it's really nice to have these experts and kind of say like, how do you look at the term sheet and how do you evaluate actually like a company? Is the valuation too high or too low? Or like, how do you do this? And I think this was super good to get started in the beginning. And so, of course, and then last year over Christmas, I met most of the Angel Program participants in person, and that was really nice as well.
Yeah. Around gathering. It's really cool. And how did it change your perspective as a founder on angel investing? Because you're on both sides of the table. So
yeah, and that's for me personally, it's the coolest experience because it's also a bit weird because I'm so early in my own kind of startup experience, right? We just raised seed, and before, like when I started the program, we were still a pre-seed company, and then looking at other like founders and pitch decks and realizing, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to give you like a valuation or to invest in you and kind of give you advice, but I'm still like in that same position, and it was a little bit weird and I don't know. I was in the beginning, I thought like, okay, who am I that I can judge you? But I think it turned out that it's actually, for me, it was a really nice learning experience to see other people's pitch decks and to realize that I, can be bolder in what I say. And I think it's also seeing, because like in the moment I was announced as part of this program, like I got like a like shitload of pitch decks everywhere. And it's like you automatically have a lot of deal flow, of course, from a lot of men as well. And I still appreciate that. But for me, because I set my investment thesis from the beginning, it took a while to think about what I actually wanted to do. But I say like I usually invest in startups with at least one female founder or one founder from an underrepresented group. And usually from like, my experience comes from like B2B sales, kind of fintech as well. And now more like health tech. So I usually say like, in a way, it should be something that makes the world a better place in one way or the other. And so I have, usually I kind of push back on a lot of the pitch decks. But it's really nice to see like how bold people are and like how crazy like they sell their stories. And I think this was super important for me, and I also share this usually with my co-founder Toby, for us as a learning experience to see like how do other people kind of position themselves. And it's really strong, and sometimes especially we as women need to be bolder on these things.
It's like about this storytelling and self-confidence, and probably also giving you a feeling being like eye to eye with other entrepreneurs and other investors. It's you try to get your business off the ground. So it's but I think it's really interesting to like start as an angel and then as a founder at the same time, because also like being a founder there are sprints where you just can't get back with your feedback to other entrepreneurs pitching to you, so it just can be overwhelming. So I find it like with my personal experience, so I have to deprioritize like certain things, or your business partners also kind of ask you, okay, what's your focus? How can you juggle that many things? And so how do you prioritize that? Is it also like time frame wise, or
and then I mean, for me it's a bit like for when you're I really enjoy doing this, and when you have a passion project, you always find time for something you really enjoy. And so in the first year, it was a little bit easier for me to navigate this. I feel like now, like that we raised our own seed round, and like we're hiring more people, and a lot is going on.
Up to speed
it's like and a lot of people heard that from me in the last few months. It's like I had to say like, sorry, I need a break at the moment because I have to focus on my own company, because that's my priority number one. And so I'm right now trying to kind of really not take too many meetings, don't meet anyone for coffee, because I really want to focus. Because if I invest in a company, I also want to provide them with like time and my attention. And I feel like I just don't want to invest money, because I think that's really not it. But at the moment, I feel like I don't really have the time, so I kind of push back a little bit. So it's all about like, what's important, what personally is important for you, but I really enjoy it. So I definitely want to make more time for it again. And I already have like some investments in the pipeline right now, so I'm not too worried, because it's also I need to spend the money as well within that year. But yeah, it's actually it is work. It's additional work, and I do this in the evenings or on the weekends usually, kind of like going through this. But again, it's also when you know this yourself. It's like once you're part of that ecosystem, you automatically also meet a lot of people, and you also get excited about people, and it's a natural thing. But I think the one thing I had to learn is how to say no. And how to kind of also say like, okay, now is not the time for
set
me.
boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
And so tell us more about your very, very first angel investment. What was it and how did it happen? And also, how did your investment thesis or focus maybe changed over the course of time? Because you've learned a lot, so you have different perspectives. You've done some investments now, so you look differently at the founders and at the pitch decks.
Do you want to like the first private angel investment or through Atomico?
I don't know, whatever is the better fit, like for this story, whatever you want to review.
No, because I think that it's a little bit different, because like my very first angel investment was a company that is doing a kind of a B2B marketplace for recycled plastic.
Okay.
And I got in it through, because Atlantic Labs was my own pre-seed investor, and someone from the Atlantic Labs kind of ecosystem started their own syndicate. Max Bade, not sure if you know him, and he pretty much approached me and said like, Jenny, I'm doing this. Are you actually interested in angel investing? And I always knew I wanted to do this. I wanted to give something back. And he kind of told me about that one startup, and I was like, the founder is a surfer. We're talking about recycled plastic in the ocean. I'm a surfer. So for me, it was like, wow, this is something that's really close to my heart. And I really believe that something needs to change there. And so for me, that was like the first, it was a nice thing. I think my first investment was like 5,000 euros. So very small amount, because I was very careful. I'm like, okay, am I just throwing money away right now or not? But I felt like, once I did it, it felt really nice, and I knew, okay, I'm probably not going to see it again for the next, I don't know, few years.
Or maybe never.
Or
But
maybe
it doesn't
never.
matter. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it feels right to do this. And so this was kind of my entry point. And then so my tickets became a little bit bigger. And then when the Atomico program started, that was really funny because I'm in this fertility space, and I met Caroline Witterdorfer from Levi Health, and in the beginning, because we were still kind of almost like she just started the company, and I met with her a few times, and I thought, wow, she's really good. She's also doing something in the fertility space. I'm like a little bit worried. She could be really strong competition. And it was like I had
you are in the same space, like more or less,
but in the beginning we were like more because we were a B2C startup as well, and she also started a B2C startup, and I was like, ooh, this could be dangerous for us because I think she's really, really smart and really good. And when the Atomico program started, and I knew we pivoted anyway to a little bit of a different space, I thought, okay,
you invested in her.
I actually want to invest because when I'm scared of her, I think she's really good, and I think I should invest. And so this was like my first, before the program was even announced, I already kind of committed to invest in her
spy strategy as well.
Yeah, it sounds now like spy, but like I think for both of us, it's actually a really good move because it's really complementary.
And you can drive the space
exactly together, and I think also from her side, she's very. She always says like even if we're competition, like everyone out there, we at least need to talk with each other and look each other into the eye. And right now it's just like really, I'm so glad that I did it because I mean she is great, the company is great, and it also kind of helps us to kind of really understand the industry.
Yeah, and I think it's never like the winner takes it also, and I think this is the like really booming space that there can be like enough players that the cake is big enough for everyone.
Yeah, but it's like for me the feeling was like if I'm scared of someone, I mean she must be really good. Like it's like this and for me it's more like also in general when I do angel investments. And I think that's for everyone. In the beginning, it's not so important if the business model is perfect. For me, it's really about like, do I believe in the person? And is the industry interesting? And do I believe that the person, even though I don't know if the business model that is on the pitch deck is the perfect just yet, can they figure it out on the way in the next 2, 3, 5 years? And I think this is like, if I have this feeling that they're going to figure it out, then
how do you find it out? Is it just feeling, gut feeling, or do you ask around? Do you ask some questions?
So for me, it's a lot about gut feeling, and I try not to be too dependent on others. Of course, there are topics where I have no clue, where I kind of send this over to an expert and say like, "What do you think?" But what I hate myself when angels do this is like, like if the round is like 80% full, then come back to me and I'm investing. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that. If I have an opinion, if I'm convinced, I'm doing it, no matter who is joining or not. And I think this is a little bit, I'm trying to focus really on my gut feeling. And if I don't have this like 100% hell yes kind of feeling, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to be like first money in. As an angel investor, you're supposed to come into the round even before the VCs come in and bring the VCs along or like make the case. So that's why you pitch to the angels.
Exactly, and I think that's also what you need in the beginning. You need people that are your champions, that believe in you, because I know this myself. Like I have these people, and this is like so important in the beginning. It's like a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit therapy session and kind of coaching session. It's just like someone that gives you a pep talk and kind of like keep pushing.
Yeah, you have great angels.
Yeah. And so I think that's important, and that's kind of also what I try to give back.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think it's you're on a great journey and with your business and supporting other entrepreneurs. We always ask this question: if you could change one thing in this world, on this planet, it could be plastic in the ocean, gender equality, I don't know, something bigger. What would it be?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Yeah, there's so many things, and I think, I mean, this is like close to my heart. Of course, this diversity and inclusion topic is really, really close to my heart. I mean, that's why we're doing what we do with Apryl, because we believe that everyone should have the same chance to start a family, and it's all about like opening up and not sticking to this like, okay, we grew up believing that a child needs to have a mother and a father, and they all need to be married, and that's kind of.
And they have to be 27 years old.
And I think like the world is changing, and like there's so much more there's so many more options and kind of there is more color in like how families are built. And I think this is super exciting. And I wish like this change would happen much faster, especially here in Europe. We're very behind in our thinking, even though it's so open on some things. And then there's still these like things that are so deeply ingrained in our like thinking processes. But that's what I'd love to
How
change.
is it in, I mean, you're probably from the like, liberal family, but how is it in your own environment? Because you're like what you're doing is it's like a very bold change of the future of like questioning the current status quo. It's like to for like fertility treatments for women. It's not. I think we've talked about that. It's not like very easy. It's also like hormone therapy, and so. So what is the reaction you're getting from your environment?
I mean, I personally grew up in a very traditional kind of environment, happy like mother, father, child kind of set up. But I think for me, it's because I lived also in the US, saw a lot of things, traveled a lot, and I think suddenly you realize that it's we all have our biases. I still have them as well, and it's just about like realizing that it's just something in your head and it's a barrier in your head. And I think this is something also when I explained this to my parents, right, back in the days when I said like, look, I'm starting a company, it's about egg freezing and IVF, and they're like,
What?
okay, what? Like, what the fuck? But I think when I explained it to them, like why I believe this, I think they also, I mean, it took a while, right? I don't expect anyone to immediately change their mind, but it's like it's a journey, and it's important that you start somewhere, and usually it takes them like half a year for them to really realize the process and to realize, yeah, that's actually cool. Like, why shouldn't like a same-sex couple have like a child? It's super nice. Why shouldn't you have a child when you're single? And so kind of to accepting this and to see this. And of course, I think when you live in a city like Berlin or like London or wherever, you're just also more exposed to this. So it's a bit easier for us to accept this. But I think that's why we need to push this more and give more people a chance so more people see it. And I think that's how the loop is closed.
Yes, actually, my 6 years old daughter, they all want to marry the same boy from the kindergarten, and now they're starting school. And but the boy doesn't want to marry them. He doesn't want to marry like none of these girls. so she's asking me, okay, can I marry a girl? I was like, yes, of course you can. And can I have a child with a girl? Yes, you will need like a daughter from sperm, but you can. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. And in Berlin, like they are being confronted with that. We also had like another girl approaching us at the playground. I was having a business meeting with a friend of mine, with a girl, and she said, okay, are you your mother? So like, no, we are like actually talking business here, but we are more of like boring family, kind of more traditional. Oh, but I have two mothers, and we're like a rainbow house. It's like, this is great.
That's beautiful, right? And I think this shouldn't be seen as something, oh, that's crazy, or that's so special, because it should be normal. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the next few years, and it's gonna be so much more normalized.
Like step by step. So this year's Christmas, family Christmas, and next year Christmas, it will be fine. You will not be. You will not have to explain.
No. I think now they're good. They're good, and they're very proud. Yeah,
they're on board with you. And what was maybe you lived in the US, you moved around in Europe. What was the most like revelational moment when you realized, okay, wow, this is crazy. I'm biased as well, but hey, this is like this is changing, and like let's just embrace it. Was it like this topic, the fertility topic, or maybe something else, where you said like, okay, well, this is like have to change my mind completely?
I think there's so many things, right? I'm still kind of there. I had these moments where I saw like men kissing, and I was like, okay, this is triggering me a little bit in my head, but like, why is this? Because I was raised saying that this is wrong, but and then realizing, wow, this is bullshit, because it's beautiful, it's love, and it's nice. But for me, of course, like this fertility topic or like family forming topic is like where it becomes so obvious, because then it's like, do you really believe that same-sex couples should have a child? Do you really believe that people should be married before they have kids? Like, where does all this come from? What is marriage? And it's like all these beliefs, like very old Christian. I mean, you can believe in whatever you want, but it's like, why limiting like other people for, like thinking about marriage? It's also a thing. Like 50% of marriage in Europe fail. And
Only 50. I thought it was
maybe it depends probably on the country, but just saying, and the children are still very fine and happy and okay. And so I think there's so many things that we need to clean up. But I think, for this fertility, I always say, like when I also talk to companies about fertility benefits, I always say, like when you talk about this, you also see the soul of a company, because of course everyone wants to be diverse and inclusive, but it's like suddenly when they have to think about, okay, how do I pitch this to my management and like what will they think? This is like when you realize what they really believe in. Are they scared, or do they actually believe that this should be the same for everyone?
And they have to make it their own pitch as well. Like
exactly.
If they really want to sell it. Yeah, I heard a story about the DAX company that wanted to attract IT talent and more diverse talent, but they worked with a creative agency where my friend works, and they would really not make the website in English.
Wow.
It was just in German, like in very complicated, very formal German, and the agency would tell them, like, this is not the way. Like, if you want like techies, it's international. It has to be like.
Yeah, but it's like also like in a way, it's okay, right? If this is your DNA, I mean, you can't change. Exactly. It's like it's societal change, and this doesn't change overnight. It's like it probably needs a new generation. It probably needs like new slow change, and it's also okay. And I think I had to accept this. This is super annoying being a startup founder, because like speed is like usually the one thing that you can influence, but on this topic, not so much.
Yeah, maybe like 2 questions regarding your startup. Why the rebrand? Why is it Apryl now? Is it because of spring and like the new beginning?
So we started a company. It was still called Oviavo, and Oviavo came from like we were like a B2C egg freezing business for women. So we thought ovaries kind of makes sense. Oviavo, kind of that's where the name came from. But then when we did the pivot to B2B, and we realized, okay, it's not only for women, but it's also for men, it's for everyone. How can we make this term more inclusive? We knew we wanted to change it anyway. Also, Oviavo, no one was able to kind of really say it correctly. Like even the people in the company was like Ovavio, Ovavio, like English-speaking people couldn't really. And so really we brainstormed kind of a lot around, with the team, a lot around like allyship. How can we kind of make this more inclusive? And then we had 3 names, and Apryl was one of them. And we registered 3 because like you never know, like you have this 6-month time period where people can still file a kind of claim. And in this time period, we kind of tested it with a few people, and Apryl was the one that most people remembered and were like comfortable with. And of course, it's like now Apryl is like spring, and it fits like to our it's a new beginning, new transition. Kind of like something is growing, family building. It was like just like a really nice match.
That's really cool. And then the second question, I guess, since you are in this space, and so there are like fertility benefits for like B2B, B2C companies. So what else? What other like revolutionary, like groundbreaking business models or startups could you envision in that space to help to drive it forward? Is it like regulation? I can give you an example. It sounds a bit harsh maybe, but for me, so I have one child, as you know, I would probably have another one if there was like an artificial uterus, like somewhere. It sounds a bit matrix, but I just don't see myself like juggling all the projects, all the professional projects I ran, and another pregnancy. Well, pregnancy was okay, but more like the first year with like giving birth, which was horrible, breastfeeding. So if I could outsource that, like, and I know that in the Netherlands, they already have artificial uterus for the babies who are born too early. So they are starting with that. So it doesn't have to be a clone, but it can happen outside of my body, for example, in the lab environment. So I would totally invest in something like that in 10 years for the future generations.
And to be honest, I think I also believe that this is going to happen. I don't think this will happen very soon. And this goes back to
regulation.
Not only regulation, but this is more society and our belief system and our values. And I think you will have a lot of enemies on that topic, because like it's still childbearing is kind of something, it's emotional. It's also a lot of studies that support that child needs that human connection in the beginning, and it has a lot of good things. And I think there needs to be a lot of probably technologies that kind of can make sure that
produce that
that
hormones
produce
and-
that exactly that feeling of safety and so on. But I think in general, I wouldn't go so far. So I actually, I mean, I don't have a child.
It's
I
an
just
extreme
I don't
example,
have
but,
a child just yet. That's why I cannot judge this. But I can also, I was always scared of like, giving birth because I feel like it's a crazy process. Like, who came up with this? I was saying like, why can't we just like,
not women,
like a duck, just have an egg or something outside and it
That would
grows
be cool.
outside.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what you're just saying. But I think for what was crazy for me in the beginning when we started this business is like there was this one professor from I think Berkeley, but he was Austrian, and he said he was also one of the inventors of the pill. He said like, the pill was the first kind of revelation for a woman, and now egg freezing is the second one. And he believes actually that in 50 years, everyone will kind of like children will be produced through IVF treatments and kind of frozen sperm and eggs, and sex is kind of only for pleasure, which is it anyway right now for 99% of the times. It's for pleasure. And because a lot of people still say like, oh, I don't know, like IVF or in vitro fertilization, why this is like sounds so unnatural. Why should I do this? A child should be born with love and kind of by loving each other. And then I'm not sure like how you experience this, but when I talk to friends that want to get pregnant, sex is not fun anymore, and it has nothing to do with love. It's like a timed calendar invite, and kind of like no matter if you're sick or not, like you have to perform, and it's like not really enjoyable anymore. And so I don't know. I actually support this. I think
the scientific approach. Yeah,
Exactly.
and there you can eliminate like certain genetic diseases, for example, and I mean they already do it, and
Exactly.
I think not in Germany,
but even
in
there,
other
I think
countries.
if I mean, a lot of people when you talk about like genetic diseases, there's a very thin line between like what is too far
The brave
and like
new world, and
exactly. Do you want to really only get like the best DNA and kind of make sure like, and you can choose is it a boy or a girl, and like what color of the eyes and so on, and hair and so on. And I think there's a very thin line. But I think if we do put a good regulatory process in place to say like, what is it that we actually want to support as a society and what not, I think that's really good. And even today, I mean, there are ways to kind of eliminate certain diseases, but it's usually for very heavy ones. But I think there should be more room to kind of explore this for sure.
So it's okay. So if I hear you right, it's starting with beliefs and with the cultural norms of our society, and then going back to regulations and the tech.
Because you cannot overwhelm a society with this like crazy change. I think you need to show that there's good in what like technology can do, and especially medical technology. And if you show this over time, I think people will also be more open to accept this.
So it's storytelling again and evangelizing.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is like super fascinating. Maybe a wrapping up for our listeners who are aspiring business angels and entrepreneurs. What is the advice you would give them? How to start? How to get into the ecosystem? Like how can they start supporting other female founders, or how they could become founder themselves? How could they find their calling and crunch the problem, which is not always the problem like you were confronted with. It could be something like completely new, like it was your case, right? From fintech to it's not femtech. How do you call it?
Femtech, health tech, B2B SaaS sometimes
exactly,
as well.
On that intersection of
but I think in the end it's all about like it's networking, right? I mean, I started
you are the queen,
I mean, it's just like talking to people. That's kind of what helped for me, because I had no clue how to do this, and I just like reached out to a few people and said like, look, I have this like cool idea. What do you think? And like in the beginning, people were like, yeah, it's nice, but no, that's not going to work. And I think I needed this feedback a lot, and kind of this, but at the same time also like talking to people, then they say like, have you met this and this person? You should talk. And then you talk to this person, and then you talk to this person. And it's like, it keeps going. And at some point, someone says like, I think this is really great. I think I want to support this. And I think getting angel investors on board is like almost a little bit the easier thing if you're good at storytelling, because I think angel investors always want to fall in love with a person. And if you manage this, I think this is your entry your entry point into the world.
It's like idea found of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for angel investing on the other side, I think that's a little bit harder because in the beginning you don't really understand how this works and what the implications are, and that's why my way was through the syndicate. Because like
which one did you go with?
It was like from
the
back then from Max Bade, who's now like he founded a proper fund, so to say. But back then it was more like a syndicate, and it was easier for me because I trusted that person. You need to find that person that you trust,
and you
that is managing everything. But I felt like through that is like I understand how it works. I can just like transfer some money somewhere, and then suddenly like I get these like feedbacks and kind of how it works and kind of what I should expect. Sign some papers, and that was like the easier way in the beginning.
So join the syndicates. Yeah, we've had I think like 17 episodes so far, if I'm not mistaken, and from almost all European countries, really different territories, from Southern Europe to like Germany. We will have Nordic countries, France. We had a business angel from Italy, and they all name drop different syndicates or angel collectives or groups you can join with the like small tickets, or even like without, just giving back your time and supporting founders. So yeah, if you're really into it, just dig into the like previous episodes or just read the notes on like Spotify or Apple. Well, Jenny, it's been great having you here. Like, it's a very inspiring journey, and we'll be cheering from the sidelines and for your success, and we'll see where it takes you.
Thank you so much. Also, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure, and I also really enjoy listening to your podcast. That's why I'm really happy to be here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.